Good evening, and welcome to Market Pulse for Wednesday, July 22nd. Stocks stalled today as a sharp move in oil-pressured sentiment, and investors waited on the biggest earnings of the season. The S&P 500 slipped 0.14% to close at 7,498.96. The Dow was essentially flat, giving up just 6 points to 52,218. And the Nasdaq Composite fell 0.57% to 25,690.90, leading the retreat after Tuesday's strong session. To today's movers, Supermicrocomputer was the standout, jumping 17% before the open and running more than 24% during the session. The server maker said it received over $60 billion in new orders in its fourth quarter and announced plans to build an AI data center with SpaceX. It also guided for its 2026 gross margins to roughly double. On the other side, Reddit fell 9% after the Wall Street Journal reported the company has discussed shutting off Google's access to its content for AI training. Reddit is now down about 27% year-to-date. The main event came after the bell. Alphabet reported second quarter revenue of $119.8 billion, up 24% from a year ago. Google Cloud was the story. Revenue climbed 82%, $24.8 billion, its strongest growth in recent quarters. Net income rose, helped by a large investment gain. And yet the stock slipped about 1% after hours, with the market focused squarely on capital spending rather than the beat. Tesla also beat on the top line, with revenue up 26% to $28.2 billion against expectations near $25.7, but profit came in short of Wall Street forecasts and shares eased after the release. On the macro front, Central Command carried out an 11th consecutive night of strikes on Iran since the president declared the ceasefire over. Oil extended its rally as escalating tensions raised concerns about supply disruption, and that is now the dominant driver of this market. Separately, a striking detail from Alphabet's filing to fund its AI infrastructure expansion, the company raised $49.6 billion by issuing stock in June and brought in another $20.3 billion from senior unsecured notes during the quarter. The board also declared a quarterly dividend of 22 cents per share. Looking across the rest of the after-hours tape, ServiceNow posted stronger than expected earnings and revenue. Its guidance for the coming period came in just below analyst forecasts, but investors looked through that, and the shares rose. IBM moved lower, down a bit over 2% in late trading, after a quarter that followed a preliminary release last week that had already reset expectations. Intel was also softer, off roughly 2.7% ahead of its own report. Texas Instruments and AT&T rounded out a very heavy Wednesday slate. Turning to Wall Street Research, Baird initiated coverage on two names in the AI infrastructure trade, and the split is telling. Nebius Group started to outperform with a $250 target, while IBM was started at only neutral with a $230 target. On the upgrade side, Truist raised CoreWeave to buy from Holt, and Stifel lifted DigitalOcean to buy with the target going to $160 from $135. TD Cowen also upgraded Genmap to buy. Among the downgrades, Morgan Stanley cut Vornado Realty to underweight, Citigroup moved Marsh & McLennan to neutral, and Raymond James lowered Trimble to market perform. But what should you be watching? The signal today is that a revenue beat is no longer enough. Alphabet delivered 82% cloud growth and the stock still fell, because the market has shifted its scorecard from growth to what that growth costs. That is the single most important theme of this earnings season. Second, oil near $87 feeds directly into inflation, and the 10-year Treasury yield sitting around 4.65% tells you the bond market is paying attention. And third, energy has now overtaken technology as the best performing sector of 2026, a rotation very few people forecast in January. By sector, it was a defensive and energy-led session. Utilities and energy paced the gains, while technology and communication services lagged, which is what pulled the Nasdaq lower. Among the mega caps, Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta all traded lower. The Philadelphia Semiconductor Index managed a small gain of 0.44%, a notable cooling after Tuesday's 5% surge. Across other assets, Brent crude settled up 3.4% at $94.07, its highest level in more than a month, after briefly topping $95 during the day. West Texas Intermediate closed around $86.83, up about 3%. Gold pushed higher as well, trading near $4,154 an ounce, up roughly 2%, and a 10-year Treasury yield held around 4.65%. Looking ahead, Intel reports on Thursday, and the options market is pricing a swing of roughly 15%, which tells you how much uncertainty surrounds that name. Zooming out, this is shaping up to be a genuinely strong season. According to FactSet, the blended earnings growth rate for the S&P 500 in the second quarter is running at 24.7%. That is well above the 5-year average of 16.4%, and it would mark a 7th consecutive quarter of double-digit growth. And then the Federal Reserve meets on July 28th and 29th. And that's the pulse for Wednesday, July 22nd. Thanks for watching. If this was useful, subscribe and turn on notifications so you get the close every day. As always, this is for education only and is not investment advice. I'll see you tomorrow.